teaching is my path, not my destination. I come from a very small town, so money isn't the very high motivation. It was not a job for me. I think that's not what I was even made for. I don't need a lot of money to survive. That's mostly about not falling in love with the idea that you have, but falling in love with the vision that you have. There's no right and wrong. It might be a wrong way of building it, might be a right way of building it. We'll only get to know when we have built something at the end. Our first feature film went live this year.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Breaking Uneven podcast. We love to talk shop, uncover the beauty of failures, and play a few games. We're talking to the founder of Mugafi, Vipul Agarwal, today. From teacher to business analyst to founder to angel investor to founder, Vipul has done everything. And he's an INSEAD alum. We'll be unpacking a lot of his journey through the course of this call. But to get started, let's play a quick little game to understand more about Mugafi.
Let's say Twitter Pit Challenge. Twitter is known for its 280 character limit on every tweet, which sometimes makes it a little difficult to convey your thoughts. It takes about 20 seconds to speak 280 characters. So we transfer this challenge to you to explain to us Mugafi in 20 seconds. But we won't make it easy. You also need to use one emoji and one hashtag in your tweet. Okay, let me start the stopwatch and then you can go. So 3, 2, 1, go.
So, Mugafi it's a tweet, right? In terms of tweet, like I would say that Mugafi is a platform for writers which allows them to make a career in this field. I think before Mugafi, no one had ever thought that they can make a career out here. So I think the one-liner at Twitter will be at Mugafi. All of you imaginators, writers can actually build a career, get your ideas, and see them getting converted into realities. Emojis that I will use are the writing one and the action, the camera action emoji. Uh, Hashtag, that's a tricky part. But yeah, like see your ideas getting converted into a life. But that's pretty big for a hashtag. Uh, Hashtag writing career. So
Okay, yeah, fair enough. No,
yeah,
that
that
was a
helps.
great description. You did go over 20 seconds, but it was a good description on like what y'all do. So we can definitely delve deeper into
Twitter has
that.
also changed to X.com now, so you have more
That's
words
true.
out there.
We need to update our challenge to either be X or Threads or all the different names different hashtags coming up.
But so, Vipul, tell us this, right? How did being a teacher come into your journey? And from being a teacher, why did you switch to Ixigo?
Now, Ixigo happened because of Rootogo. Rootogo, the first company that we built, intercity cab services. I think I used to teach, and the teaching was pretty good. Like people used to appreciate. A lot of students say that you are a good teacher. Why don't you make a career in this? But I think from a very early stage, I had that clarity. I used to say that teaching is my path, not my destination. So, and business kind of comes naturally. I always wanted to build something which impact at a global scale, which impacted larger scale. Live for legacy. I come from a very small town, so money isn't the very high motivation. I think the motivation is the existence, the reason that why you born as who you are at this stage of world, at this stage of life. So I think that wasn't sufficient for me to do what I wanted to do, and that's how the path have been a bit diverse. But yeah, teaching always been there close to my heart, and I do teach in one form or another.
And so, because you had quite a long time at Ixigo, what would you say that taught you? And that after Ixigo is when you jumped back into entrepreneurship. So, what did your time at Ixigo teach you, and what prompted you to jump back into entrepreneurship?
Uh, I think at Ixigo also it was an entrepreneurship, uh, sort of an entrepreneurship where you kind of look at one product and you have to scale it. You have to act it like it's your own and build it from there. So I never thought or never looked at from a perspective that I'm working somewhere. It was not a job for me. I think that's not what I was even made for. So if you put me in an environment where I have to do a certain task, I'll run away. I'll not last for 23 months. I lasted over there. Uh, so unless until there is a motivation where you are heading, there's something, some sort of ownership where you have some sort of responsibilities. I think that's what comes out. And at Ixigo, I think what gives me, what taught me much more, I think in one line, that it was a larger company. So you get to play with a larger data set. A lot of time what happens is that you do small things, you achieve those things, and it looks like that, you are there or things. But when you really apply those knowledge for a larger data set, for a larger company, that might not work out. And when you go and you experiment at a larger stage, you realize that how much you know, what more you have to learn, and how a life is a learning process. So I think that's what sort of things I grabbed while being there. And then that helps me starting again, building up a larger business than what I built in the past. So yeah, that's a basic learning that have been out of there.
Yeah, definitely. And that's interesting, like throughout, like you said, the kind of person that you are, you wouldn't be able to do a job, and you look for that motivation to work, and have that entrepreneurship experience. So how do you know that this job will be more in that entrepreneurship area of things versus it being a 9 to 5 job? Like, what was your differentiating factor between that?
A very simple one, that uh, is there someone who is giving you a certain task to do every day and you are doing that only? Or is there someone who had given you a responsibility and now it's all you who have to perform, deliver at the end? I think that's a simple difference between both. Like, are you going there to listen to someone and do it as they are saying? So it's someone else's mind, someone else's expectation from you, or it's the open slate where you have to write the story, and however the story is, you have the responsibility at the end. If it fails, it comes to you. If it does well, it might not come to you, but that's fine because you have done well. So you
Yeah.
know it somewhere.
No, yeah, fair enough. And I think that everyone thinks like the two ways of working is either like being employed or being self-employed, but there is like this mix in between where you can have the security of being employed but have the work of a self-employed person, where like you are challenged and you are given the ability to do things on your own. And that's, it's like finding that niche balance on like where you are on that scale. So it's interesting that it's not only either or, but like people are also now including this thing while they're setting up their own businesses, where it gives them like their employees motivation to work for them. But yes, after all of these experiences, what was your first idea for Mogafi, and is that what it is today?
Yeah, so I think what you said earlier does make sense, and I think in today's world that's fairly easy, because the only problem that happens is that when you're stuck in a, like, how I think is, the problem is when you're stuck in a path of 50,000 to 1 lakh to 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs, right?
Yeah.
That's a path which is hard to leave. And if you look at, the life doesn't change from 50,000 to 5 lakhs. The life changes when 50,000 to 50 lakh happens, if in terms of the whole lifestyle, otherwise it's more EMIs, more responsibilities, and you're more tightly bound in that situation. The one thing that works well in my case, because I come from a very small town, for me, I don't need a lot of money to survive. I knew that these are my basic expectation, and if I'm making this is fairly okay with me. Uh, so that's where it became easier for me to leave my Exigo job, go back in teaching a couple of hours a day, knowing making 40,000-50,000 a month is easier that way. So I'll not stuck myself in 2 lakh, 5 lakh of ladder, but think that what I can build parallelly. And that's what led me to move from Exigo, start my second company. I think, and all that while, the idea is that because I come from a town, the one thing which I noticed is everyone have an insane amount of talent out there, and everyone have a stories in common, and it's an artistic talent which is not skill based. Like, you might not be studied in a school, of college, but that artistic talent is something which is very core to you because you have been there, you are listening hundreds of story every day by people around you. That's a thing we tried to implement in the last company. And in Mogafi also we started the similar idea that how can we start a basic income stream for people in these towns, by using all the artistic side of, you know, the opportunities that exist. If I would have done the same business back 5 years ago, the only limited opportunities we have in the Bollywood today that moves across from Bollywood to OTTs to regional OTTs to YouTube to audio stories to your own book to comic, so there's a wide range of places. So as a writer, you might won't end up on making a CR a month, but you can still make a 10,000 a month, and which is a decent income for someone in tier two, tier three living out there. So I think that's a larger idea on which we started Mogafi, where we knew that there is a talent, there is opportunity, and we have to find a product market fit for them. But we didn't know what the product going to be. Where we're gonna head with this. The only thing that we had that we'll start with one point, we'll keep learning as the journey grows. And because we are in the learning phase, you are not allowed to, burn a lot of money. You're not allowed to die, because you don't know what the PMF like. If you have a PMF, then obviously you have to put all in all grow as fast as possible. Uh, at Mogafi, the journey have been very, I think, focused on learning, where we started from these classes. The initial idea is obviously where we brought likes of Ruskin Bond, build these places where you you get to see that how someone coming from outside end up on building a career in this domain. And this particular industry is not just for the insiders, but there's a larger play out here. And that's what bring around 20,000 odd people on the platform. And from there, we started these every Wednesday calls where it's a founder customer calls. And for 6 months, I remember like every Wednesday, I used to go. The call starts at 8 p.m., last up to 12 p.m., 12 a.m., midnight. Uh, and in all those times, I get to know a lot about these writers, the kind of issues that they face, the kind of problems that comes around. And that's what led us to make our launch our first program last year in January, where the program is largely not to teach, but to co-create, where we're going to take these writers, helps them to create an IP. At the end of it, it could be a stories, music, etc., etc. And then even we haven't stopped on the program. Then the idea became that today in the program, we need 12, 13, 14 mentors. The program lasts for 8 months. How you can cut it down to 3 months, 4 months, where we end up on building chatbot and eventually our own LLM, which you see today, which is now trained on more than 35,000 stories sourced locally, which you won't find on internet, but other mythologies, stories, scripts we have taken from the production houses. So all those content have been there. That's how we have made this LLM, and now this program length have cut down from 8 months to 2 months. The mentors that we needed earlier cut down from 12 to 2, and the scale have moved to now a batch of 60 from a batch of 20 that we have started with. And that's how we kind of have reached to a point where we know that, what a PMF are, what people are creating, how much value are we being able to add in their life, and what's the impact. So yeah, that's how the Mogafi have been largely born from a very small idea of just helping these people out, and now reaching here with that thought.
So it's quite a different journey, right? Because a lot of times founders have a particular idea of a product they want to build based on some kind of insight that they have, and then they build it. Sometimes it's correct, sometimes it's not. So you pivot until you find the right thing. But I think in your case, you're willing to pivot from day one. Like, keep testing until you find the right idea, uh, which is actually not something you see that often, that, willingness to keep experimenting till you find PMF. At least not something I have seen very often.
Yeah, I think that's mostly about not falling in love with the idea that you have, but falling in love with the vision that you have. So there's always a larger reason why you started, and a lot of time we get stuck on the things that we have built, and it's a, like we all know in MBA, if you have invested in something, it's very hard for you to not invest out there. Uh, but I think the right way is to realize what's not working and what's working, and put more effort on what's working instead of trying to save what's not working. So uh, like that's how I think, and I think it's
Yeah.
easy for me to do that, and it's everyone's life, right? Like what what are you doing today in a company as a person reflects a lot on how the whole journey had been in the past, you know, and it's not about my willingness, knowing or not knowing. It's about a simple journey and applying the lessons from those journey. And there's
Yeah.
no right and wrong. It might be a wrong way of building it, might be a right way of building it. We'll only get to know when we have built something at the end.
So with Mogafi, where you work with, a lot of production houses, directors, etc., it's obvious that you need to have a very strong network in that entire sector, in India at least. So how did you go about building your network? Where did you start? How do you keep building it up? What are the kind of tasks you do to make sure you're always staying relevant?
No, to I think networking is something. Network particularly have played a larger role in my whole journey, and it's not something which I've done in last 1 year, but something which I'm doing from last 10, 12 years. Uh, Nothing that there was no family network out here across in any industry out. So it's the first one who have even done masters in my whole family. So what where the network comes in, when I was at Ixigo, I always used to spend like a couple of hours a day on reaching out people on LinkedIn. And I still remember a person who rejected my accept like request almost 7 times. And 8th time he ended up accepting it. And then I eventually made a deck for him for some larger global event. Uh, so it's always about what you are giving back. I think the moment you go in a market with thinking that I'm talking to you, but what's in it for me? That's where the whole connection becomes a transaction. You know, so the network cannot be transactional. It have to be emotional. It have to be a bit more humane, and it pays you off in a different way. Like you cannot do a trading with human beings around. Like that's how I think of it. It's always about what you know, what you can give. How can I add value in your life? And if everything goes well, you never know that someday someone comes in your life and add value in a very different way, and that just change everything that's happening around. So I think it's me starting networking back from 2010, 11 is what brought me here. I think where I am today is largely because of the people I know, the people I met, the people I learned from. Uh, and when it comes to entertainment industry, I spent almost 5 years in this industry during my last startup by being a helping hand of people around. Where if you had a issue with investing in a startup, you reach out to Vipul. You have an issue with some agreement, you reach out to Vipul. Something is happening in any industry where he can help, people reach out to me. That's why instead of not building a relationship with the agencies around, I end up in building a relationship with the direct artist. Uh, so a lot of learning was there, and so when I started and I needed them to come on my platform, it was fairly easy. Like I just brought to them, I said, I'm starting this. I don't have money, obviously, because I'm starting, but I need you to be here. And touchwood, no one has said no, and they all like the idea, they all like the thought process, and they have been the part of my journey. So that's how it pays off, and you never know what can happen with the network. But I think everyone should spend some time. I still do that today, like meet new people, talk to them, add value in their life, and it's like investing in a startup. Like you invest in 100 startups, you help 100 people, but one of them gonna help you so much that your whole life cycle get changed with that. So you never know till you know.
Yeah, and it's about like making those connections. As you said, it's not necessarily about transaction, but like actually having a relationship with people to like um for it to be more meaningful versus being like, can you just do this in exchange for this
Yeah,
and things like that. And I think um I feel like LinkedIn as a platform is so good in terms of being able to find those people, but then it's on you to like make sure that it actually becomes into a connection, but not necessarily just on LinkedIn, but more than that. And then
yeah.
that's like, yeah, how you are with people, and how you go about that. But
Yeah.
moving on to our next challenge, we want to play with you the game Two Lies, One Truth. So to understand more about your journey with Mugafi, whether it's challenges or your biggest achievement, the idea is that you give us three statements from which one explains the actual big moment and the other two are false statements, and then we have to guess which is the correct one.
Got it. Yeah. So we started Mugafi with 4 co-founders. Uh, then we started Mogafi 2019. Our first feature movie launched in 2021.
Okay, so I'm going to venture a guess. I think one, Mugafi, as per LinkedIn, to started in March 2020. So I'm just going to go ahead and say कि 2019 वाला lie है.
Yeah.
Two, March 2020. So your first feature film in 2021 timeline makes sense. But four co-founders, as far as I think I saw, it's only two. So I'm going to choose feature film in 2021 is the truth. Janvi, what do you think?
I agree in the sense that 2019. I mean, unless he put like the launch date on LinkedIn, but like the ideation date was before. Um, okay, maybe yeah. Like for differentiation, I'll choose 2019 was when you launched, when you started thinking about Mugafi.
And the first feature film in this year started Mogafi in 2020. We had four co-founders when we started.
Oh, interesting. So today it's not four co-founders. Are
Yeah.
all four still with the company?
No, so one had to move out because of some health reason, and other have shifted from a founder's things to a job thing because of financial things. So
Ah,
yeah, so
exactly. That's what I
it's a
said.
shift
I
from
as far
equity
as I
to
noticed.
salary. Yeah.
Interesting. Interesting.
Oh, so
The
that's
first
okay.
feature film went live this year. I got the pilot last week. I'll send it to you guys for you to have a
Yeah.
look. The
Oh
first movie
wow,
going on floor on November.
Nice.
So a lot of things happening. So all of
very
our content
exciting.
largely came this year. Whatever you see now out live have all largely been produced this year or last year December.
Okay. Yeah, we would love to see the pilot. And yeah,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
Let's go to our next challenge. This is called Red Flags. We're going to give you three hypothetical situations composed of two things that are going, each is composed of two things that are going great and one that's not so great, which is the red flag. So, totally nine statements. Um, we've adapted these for you, of course. So, you have to pick which of these three situations you'd rather be in. So, situation one is that Mogafi has grown to 300 employees. You have successfully sold 10,000 scripts, but your entire tech stack is wiped out in a cyber attack. Situation two is that Mogafi has frequent narrations with all the major production houses and OTT platforms. You have an impressive offer for acquisition, but there's a copycat company that has gained immense traction lately. And situation three is that Mogafi is bringing in stories from rural India and is uplifting lives from villages every day. You have just raised a very good round of funding, but you personally haven't given any time to your investments or any other commitments in the last 6 months. But you have to choose which of these three situations you would rather be in.
That's easy.
It's great if it's easy.
Yeah, situation three is very easy. Like that's what I opt in any day. I haven't taken leave in what years now.
But in this case, you would also be kind of unable to give time to your other commitments. So,
When I left Ixigo, I had all my leaves, which eventually got converted into money, and that helped me at one more month of runway.
fair enough, fair enough. So, we'll go with situation three.
Yeah, so the last game is rapid fire. Self-explanatory. So I'll ask you questions and quick and rapid answers. How many days of leave have you taken in the last year?
14, 15 around
Okay,
in
yeah,
total, and
that's good.
that's yeah, including weekends.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was just about to be like, okay, at least there's been some improvement since you last left your job, but including weekends, you've only taken 14 days off. That's
yeah,
insane.
that's my leisure travel. So I kept in one. I travel a lot, so that's how my these things got utilized. Anyway, next
Okay,
question.
nice. Your proudest moment with Magafi.
One other person from tier three town largely made around 25 odd lakhs uh, with some deal with some IPs. Obviously, that's one of the things that we have seen
Wow.
That's
impacting across.
Yeah, that's really cool. If you could only choose to do one thing amongst the numerous things you do, what would it be?
Mugafi.
What was your biggest sacrifice to make Mogafi possible?
I put in all my savings back in this.
Your favorite narration you've heard till date?
There is no favorite narration. It's all what time, what people like. That's a very. If I'll say anything, it's biased for one thing or another. So
It's
none.
it's choosing between your children, but that
I
means you
think
have
it's still
one.
yet
No,
to
so
come.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I would say
Uh,
it's still yet to come. Yeah.
um, your the biggest embarrassment you faced.
I don't know what you'll call embarrassment. It's so many. I don't know. I can skip it. Like it's so many. I can't think of one to point at.
Okay. What was the one time you felt like you let McGuffey down?
Every time. See what happens. It's 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 a process where always you think that you are not giving enough justice. You are fighting one battle or another. So the moment you start fighting one, the other goes with injustice. So, for example, when I'm raising fund, I'm not doing enough in the ops and business back here. So obviously that's an injustice. If I'm not raising fund, that's an injustice. So like as a founder, I think you always have that feeling of injustice in one department or another. Uh, so it's even if you ask me, it's today also like I wake up with a feeling of shit, I'm not doing this. So I have to do this
Okay. Would you ever retire?
today. No, I don't think so.
Do you prefer books or podcasts?
Books,
An iPad or a notebook?
not book.
Are you a morning person or a night owl?
Oh, morning person any day.
Threads or Twitter?
Like I do one liners. So Twitter if I'm a writer, threads if I'm a consumer.
Okay. Favorite social media platform?
I would say LinkedIn.
Yeah,
That's where I spent some time on.
nice. So that concludes the
I'm not
rapid.
active on Instagram and all. I'm more active on LinkedIn than anything. Yeah.
Fair enough. But yeah, that concludes our rapid fire segment, bringing us to the end of our conversation. But before we let you go, we ask every guest to ask our next guest a question. So we'll first ask you what our previous guest asked, and then you can ask our next guest a question. So your question is,
How do you keep yourself motivated if you're running a business? I mean, how do you keep yourself motivated all the time? Because I find it hard sometimes. I have days where I don't feel like working, but I have to.
Oh, I have a long thesis on this. Uh, if you have to stay motivated, then you are in the wrong business.
okay.
Yeah, I think you don't need motivation. If you want to build something, you are always happy building it.
That's a very interesting answer.
Yeah, nice.
I'm a writer.
Before we end the podcast, how did you come up with the name McGuffey?
It's one day, like we all in team were thinking what the name could be, should be, and we were giving all the random ideas. And I was thinking, and I thought, can it be a mix of music, game, films, MUGAFI? And
Oh,
I I so much hated this thought that I didn't tell anyone. Then someone came and said, "Please tell us. At least we should know what you are thinking." Then I said, "Mugafi. It comes from music, game, films." And they said, "It's so amazing. Why you're not telling us?" And that's how the whole name appears. So
oh yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, because I was like, what does it mean? Like, where does it come from? But yeah, no, that's pretty cool.
yeah. But now we find out there is a mountain in Arunachal known as Mugafi. But earlier it comes from music, game, films.
Very nice. So two different meanings, both which apply. Climbing a mountain, music, games, films, both
Yeah.
make sense. Very nice. So Vipul, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's absolutely great to have you. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed
Yeah,
having
yeah,
you on.
it's fun actually. It's much different. It's more interactive, much funnier. So I hope people enjoy it when they listen to it. Like they find meaningful. They find it meaningful.
100%. 100%.